Good evening, students. My name is Pratyush Talreja, and I'm one of the TAs in this course, Programming, Data Structures, and Algorithms using Python. And this is the week one of our course. So, in this week one, following contents were covered. The professor started with introduction, then naive GCD algorithms was covered, then how to improve that naive algorithm, then Euclid's algorithm was also covered, and professor told how to download and install Python. So for this entire course on programming, data structures and algorithms, we'll start with programming first. Basics of Python will be covered, how to define arrays, list, tuples, dictionaries, file handling, how to take input from users, and how to format the output, etc. will be covered. Different algorithms will be covered, plus different data structures like list, arrays, stacks, queues, etc. These things will be covered in the entire course. So for this week one, I'll be taking different examples. I'll tell you how to solve them, how to go step by step in solving any algorithm, any function. So let's start with example one. So in this example, a Python function is written. I am sure that for some of you, this might sound something foreign, but just to tell you what these steps are, first step is DEF, that means define a function, and the name of function is example1. This num, that is num, is the parameter that we pass to the function. So let's do one thing. I'll copy this function, and for the entire lecture, what we are going to do, we will try to get the output of this function and also tell what this function is doing. For example, we have to get the output of this example 1 of 5, and then we have to tell what this example 1 is all about. Let me first copy this in one of the code editors, in one of the text editors. So this is the example. So what happens is when you call example 1 of 5, so this will call line number 1. Here it will go. And num will be equal to 5 because we are passing 5 as the input. We are giving 5 as the input to the function. So now what will happen? Again, what we can do, we can directly write print of example 1 of 5. Even if not, we can print it directly on our editor. So what we will do, we will first check if num equal to 1, which is false for this case because num is equal to 5. So we will go to else block. What else is doing? Else is checking, else is returning num into, again it is calling the same example 1 but passing num minus 1. That means for this case it will be num, that is 5. 5 into example 1 of 4 because num minus 1 is 4, and again this will be transferred to line number 1 again. Now example 1 of 4 is called, that means num is equal to 4. So we will again check if num equal to 1, so this is false. Then again we will go to return of num into example 1 of num minus 1. So what we are going to do, it will be 5 into, now for this case the return statement will be 4 into example 1 of 3. Similarly, when 3 is called, when num is equal to 3, it will check. If num equal to 1, which is false, so it will go to this else block. So now it will be 5 into 4 into 3 into example 1 of 2. Similarly, for 2, it will be 2 into example 1 of 1. Now for this case, an example 1 of 1 is called. So num will be equal to 1. Now on line number 2, this will check if num equal to 1. That means this is the correct statement. When this is true, it will return that num. That means finally it will be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. And the output will be 120 because that is the multiplication of these numbers. Now, so what we can say for this case, example 1 of 5 is equal to 120. 120 is our output. But if you observe some pattern here, you'll get to know that example 1 function is the factorial function. This calculates the factorial of a number. So for this case, what we will say, example 1 of 5 is equal to 120, and this example 1 function is the factorial function. I have intentionally not written the name of the functions because that is also one more thing that I want you students to think on and how to solve this problem step by step. So these are the different steps. So what we will do, after explaining you step by step of how we are getting the solution, I'll try to run this example on my Python code editor. For that, let me open the command prompt. I'll go to Python, and this was already covered in this week's lecture, like how to download and install Python. So I guess you all are aware of this thing. So now what I'll do, just to save time, I'll copy paste these things. Okay. After copying it here, so this example one function is defined. I'll now call example one of 5. So 120 is the output, which is what we have seen in this step-by-step solution. We'll pass another number. I'll pass 4 for example. So the output should be 24. Sorry. So now one more thing to note here is name error has occurred. That means name example is not defined, and it is asking us, did you mean example 1? So by mistake I have called example of 4. I should call example 1 of 4 because that is the function name that we have defined. So when we run this, we'll get the output as 24. So this was the first example, the very basic example. Now let's move on to the second example. So this is the second example. Again, it is showing example 2 and string, and we are passing that the parameter name is str. So what this function is trying to do, that we have to tell, and again we have to print this thing. Print the output of this first example is example 2. Hello, this is the first example statement. We have to print the output of this statement. For second statement also we have to print the output. But along with printing the output, we have to tell what this example 2 is doing. What is this function all about? So again, I'll do the same thing. I'll copy the function. Okay. Okay. So now what we are trying to do, in spite of using this big example, I'll use small example. I'll call example 2 hi, hello, hey, for example. And I'll use different characters also. So for the first example, what we will do, this entire string will be passed, and now str will be equal to this string. And now what we are trying to do here in line number 2 and line number 3, we are calling for I in, and then we are passing some characters. So we will check if that particular I is in that characters or not. If it is there, then what we will do, we will just do str equal to str dot replace I with nothing. So I'll explain you what this thing is by writing something in the code editor. So I'll use the same statement. I'll define a string that is equal to this example. I'll define a string here. When you print a, just type a, or you can use print of a also to print the output. So you can see hi, question mark, hello, exclamation mark, hey, full stop. This is the string. Now what we are trying to do here in line number 2, what I am writing, I'll write it here for I in. So for our case, we have used question mark, exclamation, and full stop. So just for simplicity, I'll write these three things only. So now what we are trying to say here is when I is one among these three things, that is question mark, exclamation, or full stop, that time what do we want to do? We'll do a equal to a dot replace. That means in that particular string, entire hi, question mark, hello, exclamation mark, hey, full stop, what we are trying to do, we are trying to replace these characters with nothing. And why we are doing so? Because we don't want any of the extra characters, only the characters, only the alphabets from A to Z, nothing else. That's why we are using a dot replace. And after this is done, when you print a here, I will write print a again. Now you can see we'll get the same string, but its question mark, exclamation mark, and full stop will be removed. See, after printing a, these three things are removed. So we have replaced those characters with nothing. That's why I've just written double quotes, nothing else. So here what we are trying to do, we are passing this as the example. So this is the string that we are passing to function on line number 1. That means str is equal to this string. And with these two lines, as I've already shown in the code editor, these two lines means now string will be, new string will be, after replacing it will be hi, hello, and hey. This was the output that we have got. Now on line number 4, what we are trying to do, we are using words equal to str dot split, and we are splitting it by a space. So what it will do, it will split the entire string with these spaces in between, and in words a list will be created, and that list will be containing these strings like hi, hello, and hey without any spaces in between. So list will be collection of elements. So let me show you what I want to say. After printing a, we have got hi, hello, and hey. I will try to write the same thing, words equal to a dot split, because for our code editor a is the string, not the str. And here I will split it using space. After doing this, this is done. We can directly print words, or I can use the same print of words. For code editor, words is okay. So when I print this words, you can see that a list is created, and you will be taught like how to create list, how to manipulate list. Other things will be taught in the coming weeks, upcoming weeks. But as of now, just to tell you, in a list in Python, list is represented by these square brackets, and the length of this list is 3, because this is containing three words, three different words. So with this line number 4, what we will get, words equal to same thing, hi, hello, and hey. The words contain three elements, three string elements. Now what happens here is, after this is done, after these words are stored there, now average length is the function, average length is the variable that we have defined. So now what will happen, So this is round, this is one of the function, sum is another function, len is another function, that means the length of that particular thing. And what we will do, we'll start from this innermost statement. So this means for word in words, print the length of words. So I'll do it programmatically here also. So what I'll write for word in words. Its control flow statements like for loop, while loop, other things will also be covered starting from next week. But just remember the basics of this thing, how these things work. So when I write this for word in words, I will just print word here. So now you will see that hi, hello, and hey. Three of these words will be printed in different lines. So when I click here, so that means for word in words, that means for the first time, for the first iteration, word will contain hi. Word will be equal to hi. Now we are printing word, so hi is printed here. For the second iteration, word will be equal to hello. So hello will be printed. For the third iteration, word will be equal to hey. That's why hey is printed here. So that is the for loop, right? So we are iterating three times because the length of words is three. Hi, hello, and hey. These are three words. That's why we are iterating it three times. So now what we want to do here in line number 5, for word in words, we have to print length of word. So now what we will do, we will use the same statement for word in words, but in spite of printing word, I will print len, that is length of a word. And when I print this, you can see that 253 are the output because the length of hi is 2, there are only 2 characters, length of hello is 5, there are 5 characters, and length of hey is 3 because there are 3 characters. Now let's move ahead. So now what we are trying to do, we are having length of word for word in words. So this is one of the statement. So this will be containing different lengths. But now what we are trying to do, we are summing them. We are doing the addition of those words. So here, when you do sum of these three numbers, which will be equal to 10 for our case. So this will be 2 plus 5, that is 7. 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. So this statement will give you 10 as the output. Now after this, what we are trying to do, we are dividing it by len of words. Words means the list that was created. This is words, which contains hi, hello, and hey. So len of words, that means length of words will be 3 because there are 3 words. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to sum the number of alphabets in each word, and then we are dividing it by the total number of words. So now this statement which is selected here will give you 10 as the output, and we are dividing it by length of words. That means 10 divided by 3. So this entire case 10 divided by 3 will give you output 3.3333 something. But now what we are trying to do here is we are using a round function. So this will round off, but it will round off to 2 digits after decimal point. So this was the explanation of this entire line number 5. So now when I print this, return average length should return 3.33 because we want only 2 decimal characters. So we'll try this thing. Let me copy it. I'll paste the entire example here, and then we will call the function using this thing. This is called output is 3.33 as we have already calculated here. So that means we are the output is 3.33, and what this example 2 is doing, we can say it is giving us the average length of the words. So 3.33 is the average length of the words. Like example 1 was the factorial function, example 2 is the function that calculates average length of the words in the complete sentence. And now if we call example 2, first we will calculate it, then we will find what our code editor is giving. So as we got to know that example 2 is calculating the average length of the words, that means we have to add the length of each words divided by the total number of words. So in this statement, I'll not go step by step again, but we'll just calculate the length of this statement. That means hello is 5 words, is 4 word, is 2 words, the three, five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and statement consists of 9 alphabets. So we'll do addition of these things. 5 plus 4, 9, 11, 14, 19, 26, and 35. So this will be equal to 35 divided by total number of words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 is the total number of words. That means we should get 5.0 as the output. We'll try printing this in the code editor. When we print this, we are getting 5.0 as the output. And for the third statement also, we'll calculate the length of each words. 1, 2, studying is 8, algorithm is 9, example is 7, in is 2, python is 6. Total will be 3, 11, 20, 27, 29, and 35. Again 35, and total number of words are 7. So we'll tweak this because the output again we will get is 35 divided by 7 is 5. But just to make sure we are getting different output every time, what we'll do, I'll write we are studying. So v will be 2, r will be 3. That means total will be 5, 13, 22, 29, 31, and 37. So 37 divided by 7 will be the output, which will be 5.28, I guess, if my mathematics is correct. So I'll copy and paste it here. We are getting 5.29. So this is the output of our example. So why we are getting 5.29? Because 37 divided by 7 is 5.28 something. So this will be round off to 5.29. So in this way, what we can tell about example 2 is that example 2 is calculating the average length of the words in the entire sentence. So this was all about example 2. Let's move to example 3 now. So this is the example 3, a big function definition, but no need to worry. We can go step by step into the solution. So what we want to find the output for example 3 of elephant, for example. So example 3 of elephant will call line number 1 where str will be equal to elephant. So again, I'll copy this code. And we'll go step by step into the solution. Okay. So here, initially what we're trying to do, this line number 13 we'll call line number 1, and now str will be equal to elephant for our case. Now what happens here, we'll go to line number 2. A dictionary will be created. No need to worry, This dictionary will also be covered in upcoming weeks. And just to tell you the basic about dictionary consists of key and values. Second thing is, we denote dictionary with this curly braces. As with the list, we denote it using the square brackets, as we have seen in the previous example, example number 2. We denote dictionary using curly braces. So for example, one of the example of dictionaries can be, suppose A is the name of dictionary. This will be equal to, for example, Sachin 100, Virat 99. So here Sachin is the key, 100 is the value. Virat is the key, 99 is the value. So a dictionary consists of keys and values. So when we talk about what are the keys in this dictionary, it will be Sachin and Virat. And what are the values in this dictionary? It will be 100 and 99. And we represent it using curly braces. So this is the basics of dictionary. No need to worry, this will be definitely covered in the upcoming weeks. Also, if some of you are aware and some of you know the web development, some of you know what JSON is. So this looks like a JSON statement. So dictionaries are basically JSON only, but they are not equal, I would say. It consists of keys and values as in JSON. So now line number 2 creates or defines an empty dictionary. Now what we'll do for I in str. That means again I'll use the same thing. Suppose str is equal to Python. And when I write for I in str and I print I, that means this I talks about each character in that particular word. So that means it is traversed 6 times because the length of Python is 6. So for the first iteration, I will be equal to P. Second, it will be equal to Y, then T, then H, then O, then N. So similarly in our case, what we do, just a sec. Okay. So in our case, when we check for I in str, this goes here. If I not in frequency, that means this checks if that particular character is present in our dictionary or not. If it is not present, what it will do? It will use frequency of I equal to 1. So programmatically, I'll tell you how to create dictionaries. Suppose I'll use the same statement here. Frequency equal to blank empty. When I say frequency of A equal to 1, when I say frequency of B equal to 2, when I say frequency of C equal to 99, and when I print this dictionary, you can see that A1, B2, C99. This is what I was talking about. So this is the dictionary. So when we check if I not in frequency, if I is not in frequency, that means if that particular character is not in frequency, what we will do? We will do frequency of I equal to 1. Else we will use frequency of I equal to this plus equal to means, or I'll make it more readable. I'll write frequency of I plus 1. So when you say, or let me tell you this way. So when you say A plus equal to 1, this means A equal to A plus 1. So these both statements are similar. A plus equal to 1 and A equal to A plus 1. Similarly, when we say that if I not in frequency, we do frequency of I equal to 1. Else, That means if I is in frequency, we use frequency of I equal to frequency of I plus 1. I'll tell you why we are writing this statement here. Then comes for I in range of length of str, and for us str is elephant. Elephant, length of elephant will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. That means for I in range of 8, this length of str will return 8 as the output. So I'll tell you what this range statement does. When you say range of, for example, elephant, sorry, we cannot use it directly, so what I'll do, I'll use the for statement only. For I in range of, sorry, I use elephant, I should use integer. For I in range of 8, so when we print range, it will be 0 to 8. That means we 0 to, sorry, it will be 0 to 7. That means whatever number we write here in range, so it will iterate, it will start from 0 to this number minus 1. That means when I've written for I in range of 8, and when I print I, it will print the number 0 to 7. So this is the output, 0 to 7. So this is the output of our code. So here similarly what we are writing for I in range of length of str. Length of str will be length of the string, which will be 8. We will check if frequency of str of I. So how do we access this? Suppose str is Python, and if we write str of 2, so this should print t as the output because we start from 0. So str of 0 will be p, str of 1 will be y, str of 2 will be t. So when we print str of 2, it gives t as the output. So now what we are checking, if frequency of str of I is equal to 1, then print I. So I'll tell you what this is. We'll take the help of the example. Suppose we are passing elephant in the string. So what we do here, we write str equal to elephant. So this is our input. Frequency initially is blank, nothing. So now we are iterating for I in str. So for the first case, I will be equal to e, that is the first character. So we check if e, I mean if I not in frequency. So for us I means e, and e is not in frequency because frequency is blank. So if this is true statement, we'll go to this like frequency of I equal to 1. That means we will write e equal to 1. But we don't write equal to in dictionary, we use colon. That will be key will be e, value will be 1. Then again else will not be executed because if is executed. Again this will go back to the line number 3. It checks for I in str, that means second character, because when we are iterating for the second time I will be equal to 1. It starts from 0. So second character is L. So here we will check if L not in frequency. So L is not there in this frequency list. What we will do, we'll create frequency of L is equal to 1. That means this is the dictionary we are creating. So again if block is executed, so else will not be executed. For the third case, that is for this character E, it will check if I not in frequency, but this is false because this E is already present in the dictionary, this character. So it will go to else loop. And what it will do, it will use frequency of I equal to frequency of I plus 1. That means frequency of I is 1, and now for the second case it will be 2. Similarly, for P, it will check if it is dictionary. If it is in dictionary, if it is not, it will add. For H, it is not in dictionary. It will add it here. For A, similarly, for others also. Like for N also, it is not in dictionary. For T also, it is not in dictionary. This is the dictionary that is created. So this for loop creates a dictionary and calculates the frequency of the alphabets in that particular word. And this is the dictionary created. So now, just to make sure we have created the correct dictionary, what I will do, I will just use these statements or will execute it later. So here we will print that frequency. When we execute the entire code, we'll get to know if we have created correct dictionary or not. So again from line number 9, what it will do for I in range of length of str. So length of str is 8. I've already told you about this. So for I in range of 8, as we have already seen in the code editor, when we print for I in range of 8, it starts from 0 and goes till 7. So for the first case, that is when I is equal to 0, it checks if frequency of str of 0, str of 0 means elephant of 0 will be E. It checks the first character. So it checks if frequency of E is equal to 1, which is false because it is 2. So we are not returning 1 here. For the second case, when I is equal to 1, it checks if frequency of str of 1 will be elephant of 1 will be L, as we have already seen how to get the characters from the string. So it checks if frequency of L is equal to 1. If this is the case, it is returning I. So the value of I was 1, second iteration. And when we return something from a function, this execution will stop. So when we print example 3 of elephant, this will print 1 as the output, which means this is printing the first character which is not repeated. So that means the output of example 3 is 1, example 3 of elephant is 1, but what example 3 is doing? Example 3 is the function that prints the value of the character, the index of the character which is not repeating for the first time, the first occurrence of the non-repeating character. We can say like this, example 3 is the function that returns the index of first non repeating character. So let's try print this example in the code editor. So this is done. So now when I call example 3 of elephant, so first it is printing the dictionary as in line number. I am not sure about the line number as shown here, print frequency. So this dictionary and our created dictionary both are similar. That means we have created the correct dictionary. And then it is printing the first index because L is the first non-occurring, non-repeating character in that particular string. For example, suppose in place of elephant, if I am using ALALT, not sure what this word is, but in this case, the word will be ALALT, and our dictionary will be A of 2, L of 2, and T of 1, because only 3 characters are there. Okay, T of 1 was already there. So here what we'll try to do, we'll try to print this example. When we call this, so see, it is printing the same dictionary that we have printed here, A2, L2 and T1, and it is giving 4 because that is the fourth index which is not repeated. Fourth index means 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Fourth index, that is T. So index of first non-repeating character in the string. Now, one more thing. Suppose we are having double T and the dictionary will be T of 2 because it calculates the frequency of the characters. So if I print the same thing, double T here, for example, when I print this, you will get the dictionary and you will get -1 as the output, which is shown in line number 12. That means if the entire string consists of characters which are repeating more than once, then this will return -1. That means the string that we are passing to the function does not contain any of the characters which is non-repeating. Every character is repeating. So when every character repeats itself, we are printing -1. Otherwise, we print the index of the first non-repeating character. So this was example 3. Now let's go to example 4. So this is the example 4. But before talking about example 4, I would like to request students, like whenever you face any function definitions, any algorithms, You try to solve it step by step. When you solve step by step, you will get to the solution. You will definitely reach the solution, and try to understand what each step is doing. So here again in example 4, when we are calling example 4 of 30, what it will do, it will print something. So we have to check what it is printing, what is the output, and what this example 4 is doing. So for our case, I'll again follow the same drill. I'll copy the function, print it in new tab, replace these tabs by spaces. And why I am doing this, why I am replacing these tabs by spaces, when you move ahead in this course, when you learn more about Python, you will get to know that there is something very common in Python, that is indentation error. And you'll understand what this indentation error is all about. So as we can see, after selecting it, we can see that there are spaces on line number 5, then there are tabs. So I have to remove these tabs first. Otherwise, we'll get indentation error. Okay. So now here in this example, we have created a list again. Why it is a list? This is an empty list because this contains square brackets and not the curly braces. So dictionaries will contain curly braces and list will contain square braces, I mean square brackets. So now what we are trying to do, first we are initializing prime number as an empty list. Again what we are trying to do, we are using this num in range of n. And what is n? When we call this example 4 of 30, so this n will be equal to 30. So now for our example, what we are trying to do, we are using for num in range of 30. That means this num will iterate from 0 to 29 and not 30, because it iterates till 0 to n minus 1, from 0 to n minus 1. So first what we are checking, if num is greater than 1. So num is 0 for the first case. So this is not greater than 1. Again num will be equal to num plus 1. So num will be equal to 1 for the second case, because this will iterate from 0 to 29. We will check again num greater than 1. 1 greater than 1. Again this statement is false. We'll reiterate. We'll go to loop number 3. That is when num is equal to 2. So when num is equal to 2, it checks. If 2 is greater than 1, this is correct. So this will go to line number 5. For I in range of 2 to num. So what this will tell you, so when for in range of 4, suppose we print this. So this will print from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, like 4 minus 1. And now when we print for I in range, suppose 2 comma 2 for example, sorry, syntax error because I have not mentioned the colon. When you print I, nothing will be printed because it starts from 2 and it goes to 2 minus 1. That will be 1. So this will print nothing. But when you print for I in range of 2 comma 3, so it starts from 2, and when you print here, it will print 2. This means it starts from 2 and goes to num minus 1. So that is the case here. Now what we are trying to do. So now when it goes here, if num mod I, that means I starts from again 0 here, it will do nothing. So because we cannot do modulus with 0, then it will do nothing. For another case, what it does is, it will check I in range of 2. So for the first case, I is equal to 2. And when you check num mod I is equal to 0, so it will do nothing. And then for the next case, when it goes to again line number 3, that means when num is 3 for example. So here what it will do, for the entire for loop it will check if number is getting divided by I. If it is getting divided by I, that means you don't need to do anything there. And here when number is getting divided, that means break that particular for loop. So what is this break statement? We'll talk about break statement first, and then I'll explain the logic. So for I in range of 5 for example, and when we print this I, it will print from 0 to 4 as we have already seen. But I'll talk about what this break statement do. What if this break statement does here? So I print, first I'll write if I equal to 2 for example. If this is the case, then break the for loop, or else print I. So what will happen here? Let's understand this first and then we'll see the output. For I in range of 5, that means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So for the first case, when I equal to 0, it will check if I equal to 2, this is false, so it will print I. This goes inside else. When I equal to 1, this is again false because I is not equal to 2, so this will print 1 also. But when I equal to true, by I equal to 2, we are using break. So what we are doing here is, when it is using this break statement, this will come directly out of the for loop. So as you see the output, only 0 and 1 will be printed, because at I equal to 2, we are just breaking the for loop. So here, for this case, so num will go from 0 till 29. But let's consider the example of num equal to 11. I'll just talk only about one example here. When num is equal to 11, so what it will check, if 11 greater than 1, this is true. So what it will do, it will go here for I in range of 2 to 10, 2 to 11, but it will go from 2 to 10 because it will be num minus 1. So we will check here when I goes from 10, and then on line number 6 we check if num mod I. So num is 11 for our case. So 11 mod 2 is equal to 0. We check this. This is false. So this I is doing nothing. I mean, it is just checking if it is getting divided. If the mod is 0, then only we execute the break statement. But for the first case, when I equal to 2, num is 11, this is false because 11 mod 2 is 1. For the second iteration, when I is equal to 3, so we will check if 11 mod 3 equal to 0, this is again false because 11 mod 3 is 2. Mod operation, what mod operation will do? It will return the remainder. So when you do 11 mod 3, we are getting 2 as the output. That is the remainder. We check 11 mod 4 equal to 0. This is again false. This will return 3 as the output. 11 mod 4. We check it with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All these statements, like all the iterations of I, we check it there. If it is equal to 0, then break the statement. But for our case, 11 does not divide completely with 2 to 10. That means statement will not be break. This for loop will not be break here. But what we will do, we will add that number to our list. That is the blank list, that is prime numbers. So here we are adding that number. That means 11 will come here. Similarly, for others, like for example 13, this will be added. And just as a hint, I have already mentioned the name of the list as prime numbers here. So this tells you that this example 4 is returning the prime numbers starting from 0 to 30. I mean 0 and 1 will not be considered, but starting from 2 to 30, this will return all the prime numbers present in that particular range. So this is the output of our code. So for this example 4, the output will be 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 23, 29, because these are the prime numbers. So let's see if we are getting this output or not. I'll copy paste this function here, and when I call example of 30, we are getting this as the output, which is what we have thought of here. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19 also. I have missed 19 here. 19, 23, and 29. So this is the output of our function. And what this example for function is doing, it is returning the list of prime numbers till the input number that we are passing as a function, till the call. So that means till 30 we will print the list of prime numbers. So this is the list of prime numbers. And this was example 4. Now we'll go to the fifth example, and that is the last example for today. So this is the fifth and final example. So what we are doing here is, first we are initializing a list, and again with list I told you that there should be square brackets. So this is the list which contains the elements 6, 5, 8, 9, and 7. So this is the list here. So now when you pass this list, so INP, that is input, so INP will contain this list 6, 5, 8, 9, 7. Let me copy this code here, and I'll explain line by line what this function is doing. Okay. So now what we are doing in line number 2, what we are doing, for I in range of length of input is 5. That means I will go from 0 to 4. For j in range of 0 to, what it is showing, for j in range of 0 to length of input minus I minus 1. So for the first case, when I equal to 0, length of input is fixed, that is 5. So 5 minus I is 0 for the first iteration, and minus 1. That means j for the first iteration will go from 0 to 4, because length of input is 5 minus 0 minus 1. That means 0 to 4. That means j will go from 0, 1, 2, and 3 only, because it is always second number minus 1. So this is 4, that means it will go from 0 to 3. So now we check here, if input of j, so INP of j means for the first case, INP of 0, INP of 0 is greater than INP of 1. We are checking this. So INP of 0 means 6, INP of 1 means 5. So we are checking 6 greater than 5. So this is the true statement, correct statement. Then what we are doing, INP of j, comma INP of j plus 1 equal to INP of j plus 1, comma INP of j. That means we are swapping the numbers. So now the input list will be, for the first case, previously it was this number, these numbers, but now on line number 5 we are swapping the two numbers. So when we swap these numbers, this will become 5, comma 6, comma 8, comma 9, comma 7. So this is the first iteration. Now second iteration of j, when j will be equal to 1, this will check if input of 1 on line number 4, input of j means j is 1, if input of 1 is greater than input of 2. So we'll check input of 1 greater than input of 2, that means 6 greater than 8, because this is our new list, and input of 1 is 6, input of 2 is 8. If 6 is greater than 8, this is the false statement. So again, it will go back to line number 3 when j will be equal to 2. So for the second case, it will be if input of 2 greater than input of 3, that means is 8 greater than 9, which is incorrect. Again, it will go to line number 3 when j equal to 3. That is the last iteration of j. So it will check if input of 3 greater than input of 4, and this is correct because input of 3 is 9, input of 4 is 7. So when this is the case, swap those two numbers. That means now the list will be 5, 6, 8, and we have to swap last two numbers 7, 9. And this is known as the first pass of the algorithm. So now for the second case, this was the first pass when I was equal to 0. Now what we will do, let me remove this. This was the first pass. Now for the second case, when I is equal to 1, because I will also range from 0 to 5, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. When I will be equal to 1, j will be equal to 0 to length of input, that is 5, minus I is 1, 5 minus 1 minus 1, that is range of input is 0 to 3. That means j will go from 0 to 2 because it is always second number minus the first number. Now just to tell you, this is our list. This is the most recent list that is given on line number 15. So we will take only this list as the input and I will remove this completely. Now what we are trying to do, we are checking if input of j. So for the first case when j equal to 0, this will check if input of 0 greater than input of 1, that means 5 greater than 6, which is false. So it will again go to line number 3 when j equal to 1. So this checks if input of 1 greater than input of 2, that means is 6 greater than 8. This is again false. It will again go to this j, that is for the third time when j equal to 2. This will check input of 2 greater than input of 3, that is 8 greater than 7, which is the correct statement. That's why this will be executed. That means the two numbers will be swapped, second index number and the third index number. That is the new list will be 5, 6, 7, 8, because second and third index element will be swapped. Similarly, so now this is done because last statement was j equal to 2. So now again for I equal to 2, 3, 4, same thing will be repeated and you'll get the final list as the output, which is for our case 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which means this is the output of our code. And when we are passing this as the input and we are calling example 5 of this list, this will give us the list in the sorted order. That means example 5 is a function which sorts the given list in ascending order. So just to show you the output, I'll copy this code, paste it here, and I will first define this list, and then I will call example 5 of ilist. And now we have to print ilist also. So we can simply print ilist. So as you can see, this is the output 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is the same that we have got on line number 17 in the code edit, in the text editor. Now just to make sure if things are working properly or not, what we will do, we will use ilist equal to suppose 3, 12, 1, 7, 5. So for this case, the output should be 1, 3, 5, 7, and 12 because the list comes in ascending order. First, let's print ilist. This is the given list. We will call example 5 and give ilist as the input parameter. And now when we print ilist, we are getting 1, 3, 5, 7, 12. That means example 5 is the function that prints the given list that sorts the given list in ascending order. And what if you want to do this in descending order? You just need to change this line number 4 to if input of j less than input of j plus 1, then swap the list, then swap the elements. So that will sort the list in descending order. And this was it for this week. We have started with the basic examples, and now from next week onwards, we'll start with the basics of Python and we'll see the coding examples, how to code in Python, how to solve particular examples in Python. That's it for this week, and thank you so much. I'll see you next week.